Picture a dinner party. People you know. People who like you. Conversation flowing, glasses clinking, someone laughing at something across the table. And somewhere inside you, quiet, almost embarrassing, is this feeling. Like you're watching everything through glass, present but not really there, surrounded but somehow completely alone. Maybe you felt this at a family gathering, at work, between meetings, in a relationship, even in a perfectly ordinary moment, on a crowded subway at a party you actually wanted to attend. This feeling doesn't make sense. You're not isolated. You're not unloved. By every external measure, you're connected. And yet, there it is. This hollow, wordless distance between you and everything around you. That feeling has a name. It has a mechanism. Researchers can predict it, measure it, trace it through specific circuits in the brain. And once you understand what it actually is, the feeling never quite means the same thing again. The first thing we need to dismantle is the most basic assumption about loneliness, that it's about being alone, that it's solved by being around people, that if you have friends, a partner, colleagues, a family, you simply cannot be lonely. This is wrong, and the data makes it undeniable. Half of American adults report experiencing measurable loneliness. The U.S. Surgeon General issued a formal advisory calling loneliness a public health epidemic, not a mood, an epidemic. The World Health Organization classified social isolation as a major global health crisis, one that carries the same mortality risk as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. These are not hermits. These are people with phones full of contacts, families, group chats, full calendars, and they are lonely. Researchers discovered something critical. Objective social isolation, how many people you're actually around, and subjective loneliness, how connected you feel, are almost entirely separate things. Studies find they correlate at barely 0.20. That's nearly nothing. You can live alone and feel deeply connected. You could be surrounded every day of your life and feel profoundly unseen. Loneliness is not a head count. It's a perception, a signal. And to understand why that signal fires in rooms full of people, we need to go about 150,000 years back. For most of human history, being separated from your group was not a social inconvenience. It was a survival emergency. Alone on the savannah, you couldn't hunt effectively. You couldn't sleep safely. You had no one to help you if you were injured or attacked. Isolation didn't mean you'd miss the next gathering. It meant you'd probably die before morning. The brain evolved accordingly. It built a system specifically designed to detect social disconnection and treat it as a threat, in exactly the same category as hunger or physical pain. This is the foundation of what neuroscientist John Cacioppo at the University of Chicago spent 30 years documenting. His evolutionary theory of loneliness is now the most established framework in the field, and its core argument is this: loneliness is not an emotion. It is a biological alarm system, the social equivalent of physical pain. Just as pain signals a threat to physical safety, loneliness signals a perceived threat to social belonging. It evolved to motivate reconnection, and like all alarm systems, it activates whether or not the threat is actually present. This is why you can feel lonely at a dinner party. The alarm isn't triggered by the absence of people. It's triggered by the perceived absence of safe, meaningful connection. And that perception can be completely wrong about your objective reality. The brain is scanning for something specific, not just proximity. Mutual recognition, being truly seen, having shared attention, the sense that you actually matter to the people around you. Not just that they're present, but that they'd notice if you weren't. When that signal is absent, even in a full room, the alarm fires. The body responds as if you're standing on the edge of the group, as if the night is coming and you're alone outside the fire. But here's what most people never notice. When the loneliness alarm fires, it doesn't just make you feel sad, it changes how your brain processes everything around you. Cacioppo and his colleagues documented this in detail over decades of neuroimaging and behavioral research, and what they found is genuinely unsettling. Lonely brains switch into self-preservation mode. Specifically, they begin showing implicit hypervigilance for social threats, an automatic, unconscious bias toward detecting rejection, criticism, and exclusion. The brain starts scanning every social environment for danger. Here's what this looks like in practice. Someone doesn't return your text for 3 hours. Your brain files this as evidence of rejection, not just a busy afternoon. A colleague seems distracted in conversation. Your brain reads disinterest, not distraction. A compliment is given. The brain partially discounts it. A criticism lands much harder and is remembered much longer. Brain scans confirm this directly. Lonely individuals show reduced reaction to positive social stimuli and heightened reaction to negative ones. They remember more negative social events than positive ones. They expect more negative interactions even before they happen, and this is where it becomes a trap. The alarm that was designed to motivate reconnection ends up making reconnection harder. Hypervigilance for threat makes lonely people more guarded, more defensive, more likely to interpret neutral signals as hostile, which pushes others away, which deepens the isolation, which intensifies the alarm. The loop closes. This is why telling someone who feels lonely to just put yourself out there is some of the least useful advice possible. Their brain is not in the same state as a non-lonely person approaching a social situation. It is running an entirely different threat assessment protocol. What feels like a casual conversation to you feels to a brain in loneliness alert mode like a high-stakes evaluation where failure means rejection. And the cruelest part? None of this is conscious. The lonely person isn't deciding to be guarded. They're not choosing to expect rejection. The brain is doing this automatically. Below awareness, before the social interaction has even fully begun. It doesn't look dramatic, but it changes everything. To understand why disconnection hits so hard at a biological level, we need one more piece. And this one reframes the whole picture. Psychologist James Cone at the University of Virginia developed what he called social baseline theory. His argument is radical in its simplicity. The human brain did not evolve to function as an individual. It evolved to assume at baseline that it is embedded in a stable, cooperative social network. Connection is not a bonus the brain receives. It is the default operating assumption. The brain runs more efficiently, uses less energy, and handles stress better when it has access to social resources. Cohen demonstrated this in a striking series of experiments. People were placed in MRI scanners and given mild but real electric shocks. Their threat responses were measured. Then one variable was changed. While they waited for the shock, they could hold a stranger's hand. The threat response dropped measurably. Then they held the hand of someone they loved. It dropped further still. The brain processed the same threat differently, based purely on whether connection was present. Social resources literally change the metabolic cost of navigating difficulty. Alone, the brain works harder for every stressor. Connected, it shares the load. The phrase Cohen uses for this is precise. The brain is built to outsource its regulation to other people. We don't just prefer connection. We are physiologically designed to co-regulate, to use each other's nervous systems to manage our own. This is why loneliness doesn't just feel sad. It feels exhausting. Why everything is slightly harder when you're going through it alone. Why the same problem with someone beside you feels more manageable. It's not psychological weakness, it's metabolic reality. The lonely brain is running on a hardware configuration it was never designed for. So why now? Why is this happening on this scale in 2026, in one of the most connected societies in human history? The answer isn't one thing. It's a collision of forces that arrived at the same time. First, the substitution problem. We replaced high-quality social contact, face-to-face, physically present, reciprocal, with low-quality contact. Texts, likes, brief digital acknowledgments. These feel like connection. They produce some of the same neurochemical signals, but they don't deliver the co-regulation Cohn's research points to. You cannot outsource nervous system regulation through a screen. The brain is not fully fooled at the deep level, even when the conscious mind accepts the substitute. Second, the quiet dismantling of social infrastructure. In the last 50 years, Americans have steadily withdrawn from virtually every form of communal life. Fewer neighborhood relationships, fewer organizations, the kind of casual, repeated social contact that once built belonging without effort. It has been quietly disappearing. Not dramatically, just slowly, steadily, replaced by nothing in particular. Third, the visibility of other people's connection. Social media doesn't just reduce the quality of our own social contact. It also provides a constant, curated feed of other people appearing deeply connected. Parties, families, friendships captured at their best. For a brain already running Cacioppo's hypervigilance protocol, this is pure fuel for the alarm. It isn't accurate. It isn't evidence. But the alarm doesn't evaluate sources. It just responds. The result is a generation of people who are, by every historical standard, surrounded. And the alarm keeps firing anyway. Now slow down for a moment. Because if you've been following this, if something in the last few minutes felt uncomfortably familiar, notice what's happening inside you right now. Not the loneliness itself, but your relationship to it. Most people who feel this way carry it quietly. They don't talk about it because it doesn't make rational sense. They're supposed to be fine. They have people. They have a life. The feeling seems like a personal failure, something private, and a little shameful. But the mechanism we've just walked through tells a different story entirely. This isn't a character flaw. It isn't evidence of being fundamentally different from everyone else. It is an ancient biological system doing exactly what it was designed to do. In a world it was never designed for. A world that has systematically stripped away the infrastructure that system was built to rely on. And here is what changes when you understand this. You stop looking for more people, and you start understanding what the brain is actually searching for. Not a fuller calendar, not more surface-level interactions. According to Cohn's research, what the nervous system needs is depth, genuine co-regulation. One real conversation where you are actually seen can do more for the loneliness alarm than 100 events attended. The brain is not counting, it is scanning for safety, and maybe the most quietly important thing. The next time you encounter someone who seems cold or guarded, or like they're holding the world at arm's length, someone who deflects, keeps things surface level, doesn't quite let people in. You might understand something now that wasn't visible before. That person may not be indifferent. They may not be difficult by nature or by choice. They may simply be someone whose alarm has been running so long that approach feels, to their nervous system, indistinguishable from threat. Loneliness doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks exactly like someone who doesn't seem to need anyone at all. That's what this feeling is. Not a verdict, not a flaw, not evidence that something is permanently wrong. An ancient system, built for a world of fires and small groups and faces that knew your name, still running, still scanning, still doing its job, in a world that forgot to give it what it was looking for.